All right, so I just wanted to put together a little talk about the holy days, and tried to think of a title that would link the two holy days. And actually, it is very fundamental to think about the relationship between being children and creating a foundation for a unified world. They are really part of the same thing. So here's a couple of children going off to school. So it happens to be in 1939. And I want to just tell you two stories for this message. And one of them is about my father. So that's my father, the smaller one, and my uncle is the other one. And they're just going actually to school in order to be evacuated from London at the beginning of the war. So the war was declared in September. It was just the beginning of school. And so it was almost the first day of school, and they were all badged up and with rucksacks and all kinds of things and sent off to the countryside to stay for an indefinite time period. So that's again my father with my grandmother, with his mum, visiting a town in the north of France in 1946, just after the war. And as you can see, there was destruction all around. I mean, this place, amazing that the church spire still stood, but everything else was leveled. And so, that was the experience of my father growing up. And what you experience when you're young stays with you your whole life. It has a very fundamental impact on you. So, in 1946, then, with the war just over, opportunities seemed to be there, but, everything was very disorganized, very much falling apart in many ways. But, I think probably because of my grandparents' influence, he had the kind of character to go out and try to see what he could make of what's around, take the opportunities. So, he started exploring things. He started to get interested in science and specifically geology. And he went to Chelsea Polytechnic even while he was still at school. He was in sixth form at school, but he managed to get himself into evening classes at Chelsea Polytechnic. And because of that, then he got himself into university without his school's support. And then because of that, he then got himself onto Cambridge. I mean, just all kinds of situations where he was just grasping the opportunities that were around him, just happened to bump into somebody who said, "Hey, you're really bright, why don't you go to Cambridge?" And I thought, well, yeah, okay. And so he did. So all of that happened in that period. Just after that, then he was called up for national service. But just before he went to join the army for his national service for 3 years, he met my mum and they got engaged. It was all like, everything just one after the other in very quick succession. Okay, I'm going to engage you, right? I'm off to the army and I'll marry you when I come back, which he did. And there's my grandparents on both sides of the family. So that was him growing up, and there he is. And you can see, I'm becoming my father. But anyway, yes, that's me in the middle. And I remember that standing out in the grass in our back garden to display our nice jumpers that were all from Norway. Mine was from Norway actually, and my mum then made the other two to imitate the one, but I had the original. I was rather happy about that. Anyway, so that's a long time ago. But yeah, so what makes us who we are is very much our experiences when we are children. So there we are. That's my dad not long ago in the middle there. So he's getting very old. He's 90, and he's very much looking back on his life and thinking what he's done. And, very, very happy to be surrounded by his children, his grandchildren. No great-grandchildren yet, but you never know. So, that was all a great occasion. And I was helping him very much in looking back over his life. I was helping him write memoirs, and it just made me think very much about, well, what have I done in my life? What is it that I'm going to conclude with when I get to his age? So the foundations are made. I can see so many things. That's right. Yeah, in my dad's house. So I stayed there with him in Dorset for a little while. Everywhere in the kitchen and other places, half of the objects that I remember from my childhood, the bowls and the cutlery, he's still got them there. They're 50 years old. Everything is incredibly old. Well, not everything, but and some things are from his grandparents as well. So, even those little objects are reminding me of my childhood and growing up in Leicester. So anyway, that's the key thought that I'm having today, which is the foundations for our life are made in our childhood. But that's really because of the way we are as children. We ask questions. We explore, we want to know things, we want to grow, we wonder what things are. And as a teacher, that's the essence of what I have to do as a teacher, is try to prompt questions. If the students are not asking questions, you can tell them answers, but they won't remember anything, they won't take in anything unless they asked the question in the first place. So very much as a teacher is that kind of work, is how to prompt questions. And one way is you give some information, you tell a story, you show something, how something operates, and that hopefully prompts the question, how does it work? Why does it do that? Or that kind of thing. And it's the same, we have the same nature, as I was saying to the children. We are all children, we're children of our parents. We still have the same nature, but we tend to get a little bit tired of asking the questions. But actually, as much as we can strengthen that interest, that desire to know, that desire to ask questions to God, to others, to nature, to wherever we can find ways of asking questions, that's how we're going to learn. So, a very important question is what stops children and ourselves from asking questions? Because that's what stops us learning if we don't ask questions anymore. The basic things that children do, it's the same that we should do too. We should explore the world, recognize our power to do something. If I find out that by doing this something will change out there, then I'll do it. I say Gunwan is really a key example of that. Gunwan constantly wants to do something, grab something or run around, to see how things respond when you hit them or when you grab something or whatever. Yeah, and it's that spirit of children that we need to rekindle. Studying, reading stories, that's the other way in which we hear about something that makes us think, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, or why does it happen like that? And then we want to read on in the story because we've got a question in our minds. So it's the same thing again. Or we face dilemmas. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I find it's very difficult as a teacher, but to try to pose a dilemma, that's certainly one of the things that I often think is one of the key things. When you face a challenging situation and it's difficult to know what to do, that's when you appeal to the resources within you. You appeal to God because you've got a dilemma, you've got a difficult problem to solve. So the other story that I wanted to tell you about is the story of Adam and Eve and of Cain and Abel. William's a great influence here, but also because I've started teaching at Brampton College. It's in Hendon. And in Hendon, there's a very big Jewish population, and quite a few of my students are Jewish. And I've always noticed that Jewish students are very inquiring. They're very good students, generally. I've got a Noah and a Benjamin. They're really, really good traditional names straight from the Bible. So I signed up for a course at the London College of Jewish Studies, which is in Hendon. I've only attended online so far. I might go there for some of the talks. But anyway, just one of the talks that I heard from a man called Daniel Epstein really struck me, and I wanted to pass on those thoughts. Because the story is this then, Adam and Eve, they have children. We know basically about Cain, Abel, and then Seth a bit later. But basically, Cain and Abel, they were the oldest. And we know the story. They fought each other, and Cain killed Abel. It's an awful, awful story of fratricide, of brother killing brother. And obviously, it's a story of the way we are, and the story of history that make, there's huge amounts that we can learn from it. But, there are other questions that when you read that story, some questions appear. Well, wait a minute. If they were the sons of Adam and Eve, who did they marry? Well, if Adam and Eve was the only family, they must have married their sisters. And so, that's the kind of thought that's there out in Jewish thinking. But various people, theologians and so on, have taken the fact that there's a verse in the Bible that says there were other brothers and sisters, or other children of Adam and Eve. So, Cain and Abel married, and the story goes that Cain had a twin sister, and Abel had two twin sisters, and that could have been a source of the jealousy and the origins of feeling less loved by God, and that Cain married his twin sister, and Abel married his twin sister, but then there's one more sister left, and they fought over the third one. Anyway, there's all kinds of stories, perhaps, answering that. The point is that by reading a story, we're stimulated to ask questions, to think about it, engage with what it might mean for us. But a question that certainly appears in a lot of places is and appealed to me is well, why didn't Adam and Eve stop them? If your children are fighting, it's not likely it just it happened one day and that was it. Probably there's a whole build-up from it. Didn't Adam and Eve notice? Didn't the parents notice? Well, probably not, because they were too involved in their own shame and their own division. Perhaps they weren't even together at all. The position of parents, even for adult children, still continues. We still have a significant influence on children. And surely Adam and Eve still had a major influence, or a lack of influence, perhaps, in this case. One of the things that the rabbi was explaining was always the whole Jewish way is exploring every single verse of the Torah in detail. So just this one verse of Genesis 4:7 of the words of God to Cain. There's such a profundity there of the warning from God. But, God saying to Cain, but the parents were not there. Adam and Eve were not there to back it up. Saying there's a temptation there. You're in danger of going down a wrong path. God wants to warn, our parent wants to warn, but there's a division between the parent and the child. And then the next verse, this was something that Daniel Epstein was pointing out, that there is in the Jewish Bible, in the Torah, that's the verse. Cain said to his brother, Abel, and when they were in the field. And there's a gap there. And I that made me curious. I looked at, in my Bible, and I saw, so here it says, and Cain said to Abel, his brother, let's go out to the field. And when they were in the field, it happened. But in the footnote, it says that phrase, let's go out to the field, does not exist in the Hebrew Bible. So Cain said to his brother, nothing. That's the problem. The problem is a lack of communication. Like when difficult feelings come up, you can solve them by communicating. Yeah? If they're kept inside and they fester, then there's no change. There's no solution. There's no resolution. There's no change in relationships. The communication is just so fundamental. So this was the rabbi's first message out of the story, was that in all relationships, wherever there are problems, communication is the key. That to not say anything. Even if saying something is very awkward and you say the wrong things, it's much better to say something than not say anything. It gets things sorted out. So the challenges from this story then, bring up these things. How to deal with anger. Well, one thing is you might not find any words, but you've got to find some words to get beyond that point of just bottling up anger. Jealousy, obviously, is the challenge that Cain faced in the story. And we think about this story and stories generally, then the message for us also is that how do we make a bridge between these kind of providential stories, the Bible stories, the stories of Father, to our daily life? What am I doing? Where's that bridge? Where's that connection? So these were the three things that the rabbi came to in the little talk that I attended, and I was very inspired by the final conclusion. So number one, as I say, the key to resolving problems is to communicate. Communication is absolutely fundamental. But number two, learn to love seeing those around you prosper. You look at the story of Jewish communities, and that's where they've prospered, is where they've sought to increase the prosperity of the society around them. I mean, if we do that, if we live for the sake of others, we do things that enable others to prosper, then of course that prosperity comes back to ourselves. But if we enjoy seeing other people succeed, that's really the key resolution of jealousy. Yeah, rather than looking at other, you succeed, therefore I feel angry, but you succeed, therefore I feel happy. It's a very different approach. And the third point that he made was about being bilingual. Well, in the Jewish context, that had two meanings. One is literally knowing Hebrew and knowing English, for talking to the Jewish community in London. But he said, the more fundamental bilingual skill is linking your understanding of faith with your daily life. So you might speak the language of an internal culture. I mean, I think that very much applies to us. In one context, in Sunday services or something, we use one kind of language and we talk to each other in one kind of way. But actually, that's no good by itself unless we're connecting it with the way we behave with other people and how we can talk to them, how to being able to translate between the culture of our faith and the culture of our surroundings, the culture of the people around us. So anyway, I found those three lessons very profound, and I hope that you're stimulated with some questions to learn and to explore and be children, to make foundations for the future, as well as being parents and grandparents to support your children, whether adult or young. Thank you. Join me in a prayer. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to speak to my brothers and sisters here and offer you some thoughts and some exploration of your words and your heart. We're here together to celebrate this True Children's Day and the foundations that were made when we were young and when true parents were young, and the the things that are around us right now and how we can find ways to connect all those parts of our lives together and to see how we can do something for the sake of our family, our community, our country and the world, in whatever way we can. Please strengthen our desires, our consciences. Please allow us to make a successful offering to you and to resolve the many. Please be a guide for each one of us now. We invite you to be with us as our parent as we celebrate this day and offer this prayer in my name, Prithulabha, of a blessed central family. Arju.